The unexpected attack. It was just another peaceful morning on Earth. People were going about their usual routines. Children headed to school, workers commuted to their jobs, and families spent time together. No one had any idea that their lives were about to change forever. High above the Earth, in the depths of space, an alien fleet was silently approaching. The fleet was massive, made up of enormous ships that blotted out the stars. They came from a faraway galaxy, and they had one thing in mind: Earth. No one on Earth knew anything about the aliens. They had never seen anything like this before. The first sign of trouble came when people noticed strange objects in the sky. At first, they thought it was just another satellite, or maybe a military test, but soon the truth became clear. The sky turned dark as the alien ships, each bigger than any building on Earth, moved into position over major cities. Their ships glowed with a strange, eerie light, casting long shadows across the land. Panic spread quickly. People began to scream in fear, looking up at the sky in shock. The government quickly issued a warning, but it was too late. Within minutes, the aliens opened fire. Bright, green lasers shot down from the ships, hitting major cities with terrifying force. The blasts caused explosions that shattered buildings, set fires, and sent debris flying in all directions. People ran for cover, but there was no place to hide. The power of the alien weapons was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was clear that Earth was under attack, but no one knew how to fight back. In the chaos, military forces scrambled to defend their cities, but they were no match for the alien technology. Fighter jets launched into the sky, their engines roaring, but the alien ships easily shot them down with their advanced weaponry. Ground forces fired everything they had at the invaders, but the alien shields were impenetrable. They didn't even seem to be concerned about the attacks, as if they knew they were unbeatable. The situation grew worse by the minute. Governments tried to communicate with the alien invaders, but their messages were met with silence. Then came the first broadcast, a booming voice from the sky that echoed through every city on Earth. The voice was cold, emotionless, and chilling. "This world is now ours. Surrender or face total destruction." The message was clear. The aliens had no intention of negotiating. They were here to conquer, and they would stop at nothing to achieve their goal. Humanity was weak in comparison to their power. It seemed as though there was no hope. The alien fleet was far too strong, and Earth's forces were far too small. What could a few thousand soldiers do against an entire alien invasion? As the hours passed, it became clear that this was no ordinary attack. The aliens were systematically taking over, city by city. Some cities, like New York and London, had been completely obliterated. Others were under heavy siege, with their citizens trapped in the rubble, unable to escape. In the midst of this destruction, some people fought back with what little they had. They used makeshift weapons and small arms to try and hold the line, but their efforts were mostly in vain. The aliens were far too advanced. The first day of the attack was a nightmare. By the evening, humanity had suffered massive casualties. The once bustling cities were now eerily silent, with only the sounds of distant explosions and the crackling of fires filling the air. People huddled in fear, not knowing what would happen next. But there were still some who refused to give up. Deep in underground bunkers, a small group of survivors came together. Scientists, military leaders, and civilians formed an unlikely alliance, determined to find a way to fight back. They knew the aliens were powerful, but they refused to believe that all hope was lost. There had to be something they could do. As the night wore on, humanity's survival instincts kicked in. Even though they were outmatched and outgunned, they began to organize. The resistance started to form, quietly at first, as small groups of survivors spread out across the world. They began to gather intelligence, watching the alien movements and trying to find weaknesses in their technology. But even as they worked, the aliens continued their assault, and with each passing hour, their hold on Earth grew stronger. The survivors knew they didn't have much time. They needed to find a way to strike back, or else Earth would fall to the invaders. It was a desperate fight, and the odds seemed impossible. Still, in the face of unimaginable odds, the humans refused to surrender. They had faced challenges before, wars, disasters, and near extinction, but they had always found a way to survive. This time, it would be no different. The aliens might have attacked first, but humanity wasn't ready to give up. They would find a way to fight back, even if it meant facing the most terrifying enemy they had ever encountered. The first part of the story ends with the tension building. The aliens have launched their surprise attack, and humanity is in shock. The survivors have begun to regroup, but the future is uncertain. Will they find a way to fight back, or is Earth doomed to fall to the invaders? The fate of the planet hangs in the balance, and the fight for survival has only just begun. The first encounter. The world was still reeling from the shock of the initial attack. People had seen destruction on a scale never imagined before. The bright, fiery explosions that had torn through cities were now nothing more than smoldering ruins, and the air was thick with smoke. Humanity had lost its sense of normalcy in a matter of hours. All the things that used to matter, work, family, safety, were now distant memories. The survival instinct had taken over. For those who were still alive, the fight was far from over. Amid the chaos, the government had tried to issue some form of communication to coordinate a counteroffensive, but the alien invaders seemed to have anticipated every move. Their ships were everywhere, hovering ominously in the skies. The aliens, with their vast technology and superior weapons, seemed invincible. Humanity's strongest military forces had been decimated, leaving the survivors wondering if there was any hope left. As the days passed, Earth's remaining soldiers and civilians tried to regroup. In the wake of the devastating attack, pockets of resistance began to form in the shadows. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens who had once been powerless to prevent the invasion were now united by a singular goal: survival. But as they huddled together in underground bunkers or makeshift shelters, the aliens didn't seem to be in a hurry. They weren't rushing to completely wipe out humanity. Instead, they were methodical, almost cold in their approach. They knew that they could crush any remaining resistance. After all, they had technology that no human force could possibly match. In the weeks following the initial bombardment, the alien forces began to establish their dominance more thoroughly. Cities that were not yet fully destroyed were now being completely controlled by the aliens. They erected massive structures that seemed to pulse with alien energy, turning once thriving urban centers into something else entirely. Some of these new buildings seemed to act as communication hubs, while others looked like control centers for their advanced weaponry. It was clear that Earth was being transformed into a battleground, and the invaders were in full control. The first time humans actually came face to face with the alien invaders was nothing like anyone had imagined. It wasn't the grand confrontation they had hoped for, where heroes rose to battle monstrous foes in an epic struggle. No, this was something far more terrifying. It started with a small group of survivors, gathered in the ruins of a once bustling city. They were hiding, watching the alien ships hover above. These humans were not fighters. They weren't soldiers or military experts. They were simply people trying to survive in a world turned upside down. And yet, as they watched the ships, the aliens seemed to notice them. A piercing mechanical sound filled the air, like a low-frequency hum that shook the ground beneath their feet. The survivors ducked into cover, but it was too late. A beam of light shot down from one of the alien ships, striking the ground nearby. The heat was intense, and the survivors felt a wave of panic wash over them. The ground cracked open, and from the smoke emerged the first of the alien soldiers. The creature was unlike anything they had ever seen. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with grayish skin that shimmered like metal. Its eyes glowed an eerie blue, and its movements were smooth and deliberate. The soldier wore a suit of armor that looked like it was woven from some sort of alien material, reflecting the light in strange ways. It held a weapon that hummed with energy, an energy that seemed far too advanced for anything humans had ever imagined. For a moment, the humans froze in fear, unsure of what to do. They had seen the destruction the aliens were capable of, and this creature, standing before them, was clearly more than just a soldier. It was a force of nature. The alien's cold, calculating gaze swept over the survivors, and then, without warning, it lifted its weapon. But just as it was about to strike, something unexpected happened. One of the survivors, a young woman named Sarah, stepped forward. She wasn't a soldier or trained in combat. She was just a regular person. But in that moment, something inside her snapped. She couldn't just stand by and let the aliens destroy everything. She refused to let her world fall without a fight. With a shaky hand, she reached into her bag and pulled out an old, rusted handgun she had found earlier. It was an outdated weapon, completely useless against the aliens' advanced technology. But Sarah wasn't thinking logically. She wasn't thinking about the odds. She was thinking about survival. With a determined, if fearful, expression, she aimed the gun at the alien soldier and fired. To her surprise, the shot didn't kill the alien. But it did something else. It created a small, but noticeable disruption in the alien's energy shield. The beam from her handgun barely scratched its surface, but it was enough to get the alien's attention. The creature's eyes locked onto Sarah's, and for a moment, it seemed as though time stood still. The alien soldier didn't attack immediately. It tilted its head, almost as if it were studying her. It was as if the alien hadn't expected any human to show resistance. It had underestimated humanity. The creature raised its weapon once more, but before it could fire, the survivors scattered. Some ran for cover, while others made a desperate dash for the nearest shelter. The alien hesitated, then turned its attention back to its ship. It seemed to be contemplating something, perhaps adjusting its strategy. And then, without another word, it retreated back into the ship, which ascended back into the sky with unnatural speed. The survivors were left shaken, breathless, and confused. They had just come face to face with an alien soldier, and for the first time, they realized something. The aliens weren't invincible. They had the upper hand, yes, but humanity wasn't as weak as they had first believed. This moment, brief and intense, sparked something in the hearts of the survivors. It was a glimmer of hope. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Humans had shown they could fight back, even if only in the smallest of ways. The alien invaders may have underestimated them, but that was a mistake they would soon regret. The resistance awakens. The weeks after the first encounter with the alien invaders had been a blur of destruction and chaos. Humanity's cities had been razed, their defenses shattered, and their governments in disarray. But even in the darkest moments, hope had begun to flicker. The brief but defiant stand by Sarah and her group, though unsuccessful in the traditional sense, had lit a spark in the hearts of those who still lived. Across the globe, the survivors knew they couldn't wait for the aliens to make the next move. They had to act. In the shadows of ruined cities, hidden underground bunkers, and abandoned military bases, groups of survivors began to unite. These survivors were not soldiers or generals. They were ordinary people from every walk of life. Farmers, doctors, engineers, teachers, and mechanics. Some had lost everything, while others still held on to a shred of hope. But they all shared one thing in common. They refused to give up without a fight. The first organized group of resistance fighters began in the remains of a once thriving city that had been leveled in the initial attack. It was a quiet place now, the hum of alien ships overhead serving as a constant reminder of their dominance. The resistance was small at first, just a handful of people who had come together in secret, determined to figure out a way to strike back. Among them was a former scientist named Dr. Michael Harrison, who had been researching alien technology before the invasion began. He wasn't a fighter, but he had a mind that could help the humans understand the aliens' weaknesses. Dr. Harrison had been working tirelessly, analyzing the wreckage from the alien ships that had been shot down or crashed. He had discovered something crucial. The aliens had advanced weapons, yes, but they had one glaring weakness: their shields. The energy fields that protected the alien forces were powerful, but they weren't invulnerable. The shield had an energy signature, and if it could be disrupted at the right frequency, it could be weakened. This discovery gave the resistance hope. There was a chance to fight back. But even with this knowledge, the challenge was monumental. The resistance needed more than just theory. They needed resources, weapons, and most importantly, numbers. They knew they couldn't win with just a handful of people, so they began reaching out to others, spreading the word in secret. They used coded messages, hidden in the few remaining human communications networks, to connect with other survivors around the world. Word spread like wildfire. People began coming together from all corners of the earth, forming small resistance cells. Meanwhile, the aliens, as always, remained calm and methodical. They hadn't expected humanity to be so resilient, but they weren't worried. The invasion was going according to plan. They didn't know yet that the humans were regrouping, but they would soon find out. In fact, the aliens had underestimated one thing: the human spirit. They had seen Earth's technology, its cities, its military forces, and had assumed humanity was weak. They had assumed that after the initial attack, the humans would be ready to surrender. They were wrong. One day, while Dr. Harrison and his group were in their secret lab, a coded message came in. A small resistance group in a far-off city had found an alien weapon, an alien gun capable of incredible destruction. But it wasn't just any weapon. It was an advanced energy rifle, capable of piercing the alien shields, much like the weapons they had used in their first skirmish. The group had risked everything to obtain it. The rifle was still in their hands, but they couldn't hold it forever. The aliens would come for them, and they knew it. Dr. Harrison knew that if they could replicate the alien rifle, they could level the playing field. It was a breakthrough. But this wouldn't be easy. Alien technology was beyond anything humanity had ever seen, and replicating it would require time, precision, and most of all, patience. They had no choice but to move forward carefully. They had to act quickly, but they couldn't afford to make mistakes. The resistance, now a growing force, began to mobilize. Groups of survivors started raiding abandoned alien bases, scavenging what they could: alien technology, materials, and information. They worked in secret, developing their own weapons and devising tactics. They weren't just running around aimlessly. They were becoming a highly organized force, adapting quickly and learning from their mistakes. But not all was going according to plan. The alien forces had begun to take notice of the Resistance's movements. They had detected irregularities in their energy readings, and they had started hunting for the humans who dared defy them. At first, it was small-scale retaliation, destroying resistance cells, cutting off communication lines, and crushing any attempts at sabotage. But as the resistance grew stronger, the aliens began to send out larger forces. They understood that the humans would only become more dangerous with time. They needed to stop them before they got too strong. Tensions were rising. The resistance, though filled with determination, was still outmatched. They knew that a single misstep could mean the end of everything. But they were no longer willing to back down. The hope that had sparked in Sarah's heart, the defiance that had surged through them after their first encounter, was now becoming a movement. The world was waking up to the reality that the aliens might not be unbeatable. Humans had fought wars before, against impossible odds, and they had survived. They could do it again. In a remote underground facility, far from the aliens' prying eyes, Dr. Harrison and his team finally managed to reverse engineer the alien rifle. It was a monumental achievement, and they knew it could change everything. With the weapon ready, the Resistance began planning a daring attack on an alien stronghold, a fortress that had been built in the middle of the destroyed capital city. It was a place where the aliens kept their most powerful weapons and leaders. If they could destroy this stronghold, they would send a powerful message. Humanity was not finished. But as they prepared for their mission, the resistance knew they would be facing their biggest challenge yet. The aliens were aware of their movements now, and they would not let humanity strike without retaliation. The stakes were higher than ever before. It was do or die. The resistance had come a long way since the first attack. They were no longer the frightened, helpless humans they had been. They had learned, adapted, and grown. Now, they would fight. And they would not go down without a fight. The unexpected power of humanity. The days had turned into weeks, and the resistance was growing stronger. What started as a handful of survivors hiding in the shadows had turned into a fully organized movement, one that now had the power to strike back against the alien invaders. The once silenced planet had begun to hum with activity. Humanity, beaten and bruised, had found its footing again. The will to survive had evolved into something much greater. The will to fight, to win, to reclaim what was theirs. Dr. Harrison's discovery of the alien rifle and the subsequent reverse engineering of the weapon had given the resistance a crucial advantage. The rifle, though difficult to manufacture, allowed humanity to strike at the very heart of the alien forces. The energy beams emitted from the weapon could now bypass the shields of the aliens, something that had seemed impossible just a few weeks before. For the first time, the alien forces realized that the humans were not to be underestimated. They had thought their victory was assured, that the resistance would soon crumble under the overwhelming force of the invasion. But now, the aliens were beginning to realize that the humans were resourceful, determined, and most importantly, adaptable. The humans had a unique ability to innovate in the face of adversity, a quality the aliens had never anticipated. With the knowledge of the alien rifle in their hands, the resistance began preparing for their most daring mission yet. It wasn't enough to simply raid alien bases or disrupt supply lines anymore. They needed to take the fight to the heart of the invaders, specifically to their command centers, where the aliens coordinated their attacks and controlled their forces. The resistance had to make a statement. They had to prove that Earth would not fall without a fight. Their target was a massive alien fortress located in the heart of what had once been New York City. The aliens had built it in the center of the destroyed metropolis, a symbol of their dominance over the planet. The fortress was heavily fortified, surrounded by alien drones, automated defenses, and energy barriers. It housed the highest-ranking alien commanders and their most advanced weaponry. If the resistance could infiltrate and destroy the fortress, it would cripple the alien command structure. But the challenge was immense. The plan was bold, and it would require all of the resistance's newly acquired resources and knowledge. They would have to use the alien rifle to disable the energy barriers around the fortress and penetrate the outer defenses. Once inside, they would plant explosives to destroy the core of the alien base. It was a high-risk mission. Failure would mean certain death for everyone involved. But the survivors had no other choice. The time for small strikes and sabotage was over. Now, it was time for an all-out assault. The day of the attack arrived, and the Resistance's forces, numbering in the thousands, began their march toward the alien stronghold. They had gathered from every corner of the world. Scientists, soldiers, civilians, united by a common cause. Some had families they wanted to protect. Others had nothing left to lose. But all were driven by the same purpose, to save humanity. As they made their way toward the fortress, they encountered the alien drones guarding the perimeter. These machines were faster and stronger than anything humanity had ever faced. But with their new weapons and training, the resistance was able to fight back. Each soldier, each fighter, had a purpose. Every shot they fired felt like a small victory against the invaders who had crushed their cities, their homes, and their families. But even with the rifle's power and their growing tactics, the aliens had one major advantage. They were everywhere. The alien fleet hovered above, watching the humans' every move. The drones patrolled the area, scanning for any signs of human activity. The alien forces were now fully aware of the Resistance's intentions, and they would not let them succeed without a fight. When the Resistance finally reached the fortress, they faced the ultimate test. The entrance was heavily guarded, and the energy shields that protected it were even more powerful than they had expected. The alien forces had anticipated a direct attack and fortified the area accordingly. But humanity had learned to adapt, and they were no longer intimidated. Dr. Harrison, the mastermind behind the Resistance's weapon technology, led a team of engineers to disable the energy shields. They used the knowledge they had gained from studying the alien technology to create a device capable of disrupting the alien energy fields. It was risky, but it was the only way to get inside. The moment the shield fell, chaos erupted. The Resistance surged forward, attacking the aliens with everything they had. The battle was fierce, with humans and aliens clashing in a violent struggle for control of the fortress. The sound of gunfire, explosions, and alien energy blasts filled the air as both sides fought for dominance. Inside the fortress, the Resistance's explosives were planted, and the countdown began. They had only minutes before the bombs would go off and bring the entire structure down. But the aliens were not giving up without a fight. Their commanders sent out reinforcements to stop the humans from completing their mission. Just as it seemed like the tide of battle might turn against them, the unexpected happened. One of the Resistance soldiers, a former engineer named Tom, discovered something extraordinary. While exploring the lower levels of the fortress, he stumbled upon a hidden chamber, a room filled with alien technology that had been concealed from the rest of the invaders. Inside the chamber were massive energy cores, which seemed to power the entire alien operation. Tom realized that these cores were the key to the alien strength. If he could destroy them, it would cripple their entire operation. The Resistance had been focused on the fortress's command center, but this discovery opened up an entirely new possibility. With the clock ticking, Tom quickly relayed his findings to Dr. Harrison, who understood the potential of the discovery. They needed to act fast. The Resistance altered their mission. Now, they would not only destroy the fortress's core, but also take out the alien energy cores. It was a last-ditch effort to ensure that the aliens could never regroup. In a daring final push, the Resistance launched a direct assault on the core chamber. The aliens fought back fiercely, but the human soldiers were now fueled by a sense of purpose they had never known before. Every step forward felt like reclaiming their future. With seconds to spare, they planted the final explosives, and the core chamber erupted in a brilliant flash of light. The fortress began to crumble. The alien forces, stunned by the sudden attack, struggled to regroup. But it was too late. The Resistance had struck a blow they hadn't thought possible. The aliens were forced to retreat, and the fortress collapsed into ruins. Humanity had won a monumental victory. The unexpected power of human resilience, creativity, and sheer determination had turned the tide of the war. And for the first time in weeks, the survivors allowed themselves to believe Earth could be saved. The aliens might have thought they were unstoppable, but humanity had proven them wrong. The final stand. The atmosphere was thick with tension. The Resistance's success in infiltrating the alien fortress had sent shockwaves across the entire invasion force. For the first time since the attack began, the alien forces were rattled. Their once unshakable confidence had been cracked, and the human rebels had proven themselves to be far more than just an inconvenience. They had struck at the heart of the alien command, crippling their operations, and their victory in the fortress was a symbol of humanity's defiance. But the aliens weren't done yet. The retreat from the fortress wasn't a surrender, it was a strategic move. The aliens regrouped, calling in reinforcements from the farthest reaches of their empire. Massive warships descended from the heavens, their dark silhouettes blocking out the sky, a terrifying reminder of the sheer power the invaders wielded. The aliens were preparing for a counteroffensive, and this time, they would not underestimate humanity's resolve. The Resistance, emboldened by their previous success, knew that their victory had come at a high cost. The alien forces were still formidable, and the fight was far from over. The global resistance leaders, Dr. Harrison, Sarah, Tom, and others, gathered in a secret bunker deep underground to discuss their next move. They were battered and exhausted, but their spirits were unwavering. If humanity was going to have any chance of survival, this was it, the final stand. "We've taken their command centers," Dr. Harrison said, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. "But they're not going to leave us alone. We've made them angry, and now they'll come for us with everything they have." Tom nodded, his hands still trembling from the explosion that had rocked the alien fortress. "We've taken down one stronghold, but they have more. Their ships are too powerful for us to engage head-on. If we don't hit them where it hurts, they'll keep coming." Sarah, who had been quiet up until that point, spoke up. "We have no choice but to keep fighting. We've taken down one of their strongholds, but there's still an entire fleet waiting to crush us. We need to hit them hard again, this time where they can't recover." The plan was set. The Resistance had discovered that the aliens were not only using their warships as mobile bases, but were also channeling their energy from a massive central fleet anchor located in Earth's orbit. This anchor acted as a power source for the alien armada, and without it, the fleet would be crippled. But attacking the anchor would be an incredibly difficult task. It was heavily guarded, and reaching it would require the best of the best, the bravest soldiers, and the most advanced weapons humanity had to offer. It was a suicide mission, but there was no other choice. The Resistance had learned a great deal from their previous skirmishes with the aliens. They had gathered alien technology, reverse-engineered their weapons, and developed new strategies. Their tactics had evolved, from small, guerrilla-style raids to large-scale military operations. They now knew how to deal with alien drones, how to infiltrate their bases, and how to disrupt their energy shields. But even with all of their advances, the odds were still overwhelming. In the coming days, the Resistance worked tirelessly to prepare for the assault on the alien fleet anchor. They gathered their forces, recruited every able-bodied survivor, and built a plan that would take them straight to the heart of the alien armada. Fighters, bombers, and newly forged weapons were readied for battle. In the quiet moments before the storm, Sarah found herself reflecting on everything that had brought them to this point. The sacrifices, the losses, the moments of doubt. But more than anything, she thought of the people they were fighting for, the future of humanity, the hope of a world free from alien tyranny. On the eve of the final assault, Dr. Harrison addressed the assembled Resistance fighters. "We've come far, but this is it. If we win, we change the course of history. If we fail, everything we fought for will be lost. But I believe in each and every one of you. The strength of humanity is more powerful than any weapon they can throw at us. We can do this." With their morale high, the Resistance launched their final assault. The operation was daring from the start. Using a combination of human ingenuity and salvaged alien technology, the Resistance bypassed most of the alien defenses in Earth's orbit. The Resistance's ships were small, fast, and built for stealth, designed to evade detection. They infiltrated the outer rings of the alien fleet under the cover of darkness, avoiding the most heavily guarded areas, while heading straight for the anchor that powered the entire alien fleet. As they neared the central anchor, the aliens were quick to respond. Massive warships began firing their energy beams at the incoming Resistance forces, but the humans had learned from their previous encounters. They used the alien weapons to their advantage, returning fire with deadly precision. Resistance ships moved like lightning, dodging alien beams and using advanced tactics to outmaneuver their enemies. Inside the heart of the alien fleet, the final push began. The Resistance soldiers, having infiltrated the fleet's defenses, launched an all-out assault on the central anchor itself. Explosions rocked the space station as bombs were planted in key areas. The battle was fierce, with the Resistance fighting tooth and nail against the aliens, who now recognized the threat humanity posed. But the humans were relentless. Inside the station, Sarah and a small group of fighters reached the core chamber of the alien anchor. The energy that flowed through it was immense. Alien power that could destroy entire cities with a single surge. Time was running out, and the core had to be destroyed to ensure the alien fleet could not regroup. But there was a catch. The core was heavily guarded by alien warriors, and there was no way to destroy it without sacrificing themselves. In that moment, Sarah knew what had to be done. She turned to her team, determination in her eyes. We finish this now. We give everything we have. With a final, coordinated assault, they planted the explosives in the core chamber. As they made their way to the extraction point, the aliens launched a last-ditch effort to stop them. But it was too late. The resistance had already set the wheels in motion. A blinding explosion filled the sky, and the core of the alien anchor detonated in a flash of light. The alien fleet, once invincible, was crippled. Without the central power source, the remaining warships lost their ability to communicate and fight. The invaders had been dealt a crippling blow. As the explosion tore through the heart of the alien fleet, the resistance knew that the tide had turned. Humanity had struck back, and it wasn't just a fleeting victory. It was the turning point in the war. The aliens, now severely weakened, began retreating from Earth's orbit, their once unstoppable forces scattering in disarray. The final stand had been a success. Humanity had shown its true power, its resilience, its courage, and its unyielding will to survive. And now, Earth had its future back. The twist of fate. The war against the alien invaders had already taken a significant toll on Earth, but humanity had not only survived, it had begun to turn the tables. With their successful strike against the alien fleet's core, the resistance had dealt a devastating blow to the invaders. The alien fleet was crippled, and many of their forces scattered in confusion, retreating to distant corners of the galaxy. For the first time since the invasion began, humans dared to believe that victory was possible. But the aliens were not finished yet. While the loss of their command structure and energy anchor had set them back, they were not a species that easily accepted defeat. In fact, their retreat was merely a strategic withdrawal, a regrouping, a desperate attempt to save their own species from the wrath of the humans they had once seen as nothing more than primitive creatures. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, but now they were preparing for something far more sinister. Unknown to the resistance, a secret weapon was being developed in the far reaches of space, a weapon so powerful, so devastating, that it could erase all of humanity's hard-won progress in a single stroke. This was the true final gambit of the alien forces, a weapon designed to obliterate entire worlds in seconds, a massive planet-destroying device, capable of wiping out Earth's very existence. The resistance had no idea what was coming. Their victory, so hard-earned, was about to be overshadowed by a dark twist of fate. As they celebrated their success and began to regroup, preparing for the final push to push the aliens completely off Earth, they detected strange energy signatures coming from the outer reaches of the solar system. It wasn't just the usual remnants of the alien fleet. They were facing something far worse. It was then that Dr. Harrison made a chilling discovery. As he was studying alien transmission data, he noticed something that didn't fit. There was a faint but growing signal from the outskirts of the system, an energy pulse unlike anything they had encountered before. He ran the data again, this time with Sarah and Tom by his side, hoping for a mistake. But there was no mistake. The pulse. It's coming from the alien mothership, Harrison said, his voice trained. It's not just any signal. It's a weapon so powerful, it could destroy Earth in an instant. The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. The victory they had celebrated, the battles they had won, now felt hollow. The aliens had been playing a deeper game all along, and they had kept their ultimate weapon hidden until now. They had used the initial invasion to weaken humanity, to lure them into a false sense of security. And now, they were prepared to finish what they had started. The resistance had no time to waste. They quickly scrambled to formulate a plan. They knew that the alien mothership was heavily guarded, and the weapon it carried would be nearly impossible to disable without sacrificing everything they had worked for. But the fate of the planet was on the line. They had no choice but to act quickly. The plan was audacious. The Resistance would launch a final assault on the alien mothership, deep within the alien stronghold, and take out the weapon before it could be activated. They would need to infiltrate the heavily fortified alien ship, navigate its labyrinthine corridors, and destroy the device that could end all life on Earth. It would be the ultimate test of their courage, their ingenuity, and their resolve. However, there was a problem. The mothership was located in a remote region of space, far beyond the reach of most human forces. Even with their advanced technology, getting to the ship would take time, and the alien fleet was already on alert. They would have to travel deep into enemy territory, avoiding patrols, bypassing alien defenses, and risking everything just to get close enough to disable the weapon. As the Resistance prepared for this last, desperate mission, a sense of urgency gripped them. Each fighter knew this was a one-way trip. There would be no turning back. For all their courage, for all their determination, no one knew what awaited them on the mothership. They could fail. And if they did, the consequences would be catastrophic. But as they prepared to board their ships and begin the final journey, something extraordinary happened. A transmission came in from an unexpected source. A lone alien fighter pilot who had deserted the invading fleet. This deserter, who had grown disillusioned with the invasion and its methods, had defected to the human side. His name was Jarath, and he had been one of the elite commanders of the alien fleet. He revealed that there was a hidden flaw in the weapon, the one thing the alien leaders had overlooked. It was a vulnerability in the energy core that powered the planet-destroying weapon, a flaw that could cause the entire device to malfunction if triggered correctly. The flaw, however, was not easily exploited. It was located deep within the mothership's central command core, an area that was almost impossible to access. Jarath offered to help guide the Resistance to this weak point, explaining that he knew the mothership better than any human ever could. He had helped design the ship's security systems, and he knew exactly how to navigate its defenses. Despite the risk of his own life, he was willing to provide the Resistance with the knowledge they needed to infiltrate the ship and disable the weapon. The Resistance was hesitant at first. Could they trust an alien deserter? After all, he had been part of the force that had destroyed their cities, their homes, and their loved ones. But Jarath's sincerity was clear, and his knowledge of the mothership's inner workings could be the key to humanity's survival. The decision was made. They would accept his help. With Jarath's guidance, the Resistance launched their assault on the mothership. The journey was perilous, filled with the constant threat of alien patrols and traps. Every moment was a gamble, but the human fighters pressed on, determined to make it to the heart of the enemy ship. They navigated the mothership's corridors, using every trick and piece of alien technology they had learned to disable security systems and avoid detection. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of near misses and heart-pounding close calls, they reached the central core of the mothership. The weapon was there, humming with the deadly power it would unleash. It was a massive device, alien in design, and it pulsed with an ominous energy that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. The core was surrounded by layers of shielding, but Jarath, using his insider knowledge, was able to guide them to the flaw in the system. With seconds to spare, they activated the device that would trigger the flaw. The weapon's power began to destabilize, and a series of violent explosions ripped through the mothership. The Resistance had done it. They had neutralized the weapon before it could be used. But the price was high. As the ship's core exploded, the mothership began to break apart, and the final confrontation between humanity and the alien invaders began. The twist of fate had come in the form of an alien deserter. His sacrifice and the knowledge he provided had given humanity the edge it needed. Now, the Resistance had one final chance to end the war for good. The last laugh. The destruction of the alien mothership was the turning point humanity had desperately needed. After weeks of hard-fought resistance, the weapon designed to obliterate Earth was no longer a threat. The final planet-killing device had been neutralized, but the cost was enormous. The alien mothership, now in ruins, drifted in space like the carcass of a once mighty titan. The resistance had accomplished what seemed impossible. Against all odds, they had won. But the war was not yet over. Even as the alien fleet retreated, leaving Earth's atmosphere and heading back toward the distant corners of the galaxy, humanity knew that this moment of victory was fragile. The aliens might have lost their ultimate weapon, but their forces were still formidable. It was clear that Earth's battle for survival would not end with the destruction of one ship. It would be a fight for every inch of ground, every last drop of humanity's will. The survivors stood on the precipice of a new world, a world that had been altered beyond recognition, but not beyond hope. Earth had endured the worst the universe had to offer, and had come through stronger than ever. The alien invaders had underestimated the resilience of human spirit, but now, humanity had not only survived, they had taken the last laugh. As the news of their victory spread across the globe, the world began to breathe again. The skies, once darkened by alien warships, now cleared. Cities that had once been rubble were beginning to rebuild. The fires that had ravaged the land were slowly being extinguished. People, though scared by the violence, began to reconnect with the idea of community, of rebuilding what they had lost. It was not a quick process, but it was a start. Sarah, Dr. Harrison, and Tom stood together on the ruins of the once great alien fortress. The building, now a hollow shell, was all that remained of the alien empire's ambition to dominate Earth. It had been the site of humanity's greatest stand against the invaders. Now, it was the symbol of their victory. For Sarah, this moment was personal. She thought of the friends and family she had lost in the early days of the invasion, of the pain that had driven her to fight in the first place. But she also thought of the hope they had all fought for, the future of the world, the future of their children. The war had stolen so much, but it had also brought out the best in humanity. It had united people across the world in ways that no one had thought possible. It had shown that, even in the face of extinction, humanity could rise to any challenge. She turned to Dr. Harrison, who had been instrumental in the success of the resistance. "You know, I never thought we'd get here. I thought, for sure, we were doomed." Dr. Harrison smiled faintly, the exhaustion of the past few weeks still visible on his face. "We all thought that. It was a long road, but in the end, it wasn't the weapons or the technology that won this war. It was us, our will to survive, our refusal to let go of everything we fought for." Tom, who had been silent for much of the conversation, looked out over the horizon. The alien ships that once dominated the sky were now gone, and Earth was left to heal. "We may have won today, but we can't forget what we've lost, and we can't forget what the aliens tried to take from us. They might have underestimated us, but we have to make sure that no one ever forgets that we're not easy prey. No one gets to take away our future again." His words hung in the air, a reminder that while the war was over, the rebuilding had just begun. The people of Earth would have to learn from their past mistakes, to rebuild their world and protect it from whatever came next. They had won, but they had learned a hard lesson in the process. In the months that followed, Earth began to change. The unity that had been forged during the war didn't dissipate. It became the foundation for the new world humanity would create. People worked together to rebuild cities, to heal the planet, to prepare for the future. The scars of the invasion would remain, but the resilience and creativity of humanity shone through every effort to reclaim their world. They had faced impossible odds and had come out on top. The alien invaders, once convinced of their superiority, had learned the hardest lesson of all: never underestimate humanity. Earth had proven that it could not be defeated, that even in the face of annihilation, humanity would rise, adapt, and fight back. The galaxy and the universe beyond now knew that humanity was not to be trifled with. Earth had earned its place among the stars, and the humans who had fought and survived had earned something even greater: their freedom. One final transmission from the Resistance went out, not just to Earth, but to the stars themselves. It was a message to any who might come after the aliens, to those who might one day consider Earth a target for conquest. We are humanity. We stand together. We are not your slaves. We are not your prey. We are the last laugh, and we will never surrender. With that, the Resistance's story ended, but humanity's story was only just beginning.